thank you again for joining us. I know we had a couple of missed interview schedules and whatnot, and that's all part of the business. But I wanted to kick things off. What's good? What's your day been like? What have you been up to?
My day's been fantastic. I woke up in Omaha, Nebraska, and I am now in Lawrence, Kansas.
Great.
And after this, I'm going to Texas Roadhouse, and then I'm going to go see Eddington, and then we're playing in Lawrence, Kansas tomorrow night with Heart Attack Man, Carpool, and Dear Seattle.
Nice, 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 nice. It's good to be out on the road. It's summertime over there, correct?
Indeed, yes, it's pretty stinking hot.
It's the exact opposite here in Melbourne. It's cold as shit.
Oh yeah.
I wanted to kind of talk about the new record, but I wanted to kind of wind things back a little bit and get some historical context on the Dirty Nil. I was reading a interview that you did with Dan Ozzie in Noisy in 2015 to get a nice kind of like 10-year snapshot. And you talk about the Dirty Nil as being essentially an excuse for you and Kyle to figure out how to play music together. And I wanted to start by asking, have you figured that out yet?
You know what? I can't say that we've conclusively gotten to the bottom of it, but we're making progress.
I think
I
being
like
on
to think.
I would like to think so. On album number 5, I think you're getting close to getting there.
We're getting there.
On God, I pray that you got the whirlwind coming your way. With joy, I say, I know you can hear me now while you're running out of time.
But all jokes aside, what what is kind of the motivating factor for the Dirty Nil now? Because you're kind of 10 years into this thing, you're on album number 5, it's full steam ahead. What's the what's the thing that gets you out of bed in the morning when it comes to making music?
There's always I think that in terms of like writing new songs, I think that I still have I know that there's lots of ones that at least I'm gonna like left in me.
Okay.
There's a lot, and I've the only way to find them is to pick up my guitar in the morning and
Mm,
go looking for them. And once for anybody that's ever, you know, uh, written a song and been extremely chuffed with it, satisfied with it, they'll know that that's a feeling that is addicting, and it is not a straight line towards that next one, but um, uh, throughout the many kind of peaks and valleys and twists and turns of finding that song. Once you get there, that's what I live for. It's kind of the supreme mission of my life is to find the next song. But aside from writing new music, I love um, going into my office and turning on my 100-watt Marshall stack and putting on my Les Paul and turning up to 10 and just hitting an E chord and letting it feed back until
yeah.
my neighbors start banging on my door. I still live for that feeling. I never get tired of the basic um, power of rock and roll music. It's enough for me. I've never really been interested in. I've never needed to anything more in my life, to be honest with you.
Yeah, that sounds like a spiritual calling, and I resonate with that. I think that's sick. When it comes to songwriting, I've talked to a bunch of artists on the show, and I find that they sit in like two distinct camps. One of them is like the type A, very like structured, working at it in a particular kind of like fashion or formula. And then there's like the others that are kind of just like waiting for inspiration to like drop out of the ether. And they can't quite plan it and it just kind of happens, and there might be weeks where nothing is written and then there's a week where everything is written. I wanted to know what kind of camp do you fall in?
I guess I'm a bit of both, but when I first started, I think I was more or less in the latter camp,
Hmm.
and I would just kind of wait until I felt inspired. And then we put out our first EP and then our second EP, and then I found I wasn't very inspired, and I was quite mystical in my work ethic, shall I say.
Yeah.
And I realized that or at least the quote that really resonated with me is that inspiration works, but inspiration exists, but it has to find you working.
Yeah.
And so I'm pretty blue collar, 9 to 5 about it. I mean, not 9 to 5. I definitely keep irregular hours, but I do put a few hours every single day when I'm at home into working on music. And so I've always got a bunch of songs on the go, and some that I'm just kind of chipping away at. And then all of a sudden, you'll write one of the better ones all in 15 minutes, and it just feels great. But I do kind of think of it as a muscle that you've got to keep toned up, because to me, writing songs is in its simplest form is just about making decisions. And when I'm out of shape doing that, I find I get too hung up and too indecisive about when I reach a crossroads on should I do this or should I do that, and I'll delude myself into or I'll placate myself by saying, "Oh, I'll make that decision later. I'll make that decision later,"
Right.
knowing now that kind of is going to complicate things down the line. What I like to do is to have some momentum and finish it as much as I can, at least the first draft of it, as quickly as possible, in one sitting, because I find it really hard to kind of get back to that spot that I was in. So, yeah, I mean, in answer to your question, I'm a bit of both, but I rely on the more kind of put your hard hat on and get in there type approach.
So you wanna be in a rock and roll band with your face on the Instagram? I'ma call it as it is. It's a hole in your pocket and you roll out of gas. Someone else is getting rich. Someone else is getting rich. Someone else is getting rich, not you.
No, I think that's very practically minded, but also allowing for that little bit of a spiritual dimension to kind of seep through, which I think is a nice pragmatic blend of two approaches.
Yes.
Let's talk about the new record. So the Lash is coming out next week. It's the fifth album from the band. One of the songs that I immediately gravitated to was Spider Dream. And kind of feeding off the previous question, I noticed there's like a wistful kind of country twang to that one in sections. And I was reading an interview where you said that you're a big fan of John Prine. I wanted to know, like, where did the country stuff come from, and what was the moment where you were like, oh, this could work, we could do this.
Well, I grew up on all that stuff. My dad is a big John Prine, Stompin' Tom, early Johnny Cash, Hank Williams, that was what I grew up listening to. And I kind of ran away from it in my early years of rock and
Yeah.
roll. And then kind of in my mid 20s, I realized that no, I immediately came back to all of it.
I did the exact same thing.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. I think that I was really into really really white noise kind of screaming punk music,
Yeah.
rock and roll, and then I just kind of found my way back to what I grew up with and realized that this stuff is kind of in my bones. I just remember driving around when I was 8 years old, listening to Live at Folsom Prison. I know every single second of that record, every little out of tune guitar. It's one of my favorite records. It's like my comfort food. And same thing with Sweet Revenge by John Prine, and kind of most of his 70s output and beyond. As his final album is one of my favorite records he put out.
Yeah.
But I found that when I was kind of getting stumped with writing rock tunes. And once I reconnected with all that stuff, I found it much easier there's a simplicity in that music that really allowed me to approach writing music from a much more carefree and productive angle. But it didn't really find its way into our music until this album, and specifically Spider Dream. But yeah, I mean that specific song, I think I had COVID and I was laid up at home and I was watching that Get Back documentary, that Beatles documentary,
Yeah.
and I was watching them struggle. And if anybody who's in any type of creative pursuit out there has not seen Get Back, I highly recommend it.
I've had it recommended to me. I need to check it out.
It's fantastic. But you know what? I just thought to myself, if those idiots can do it, I can do it.
Of course, of
I'm
course.
I'm just joking. Paul McCartney is at the top of his game in that documentary. I used to not like Paul McCartney, and after watching that, I love Paul. No, I was definitely kind of messing around with a bunch of those seventh chords and stuff, and I think that when I wrote that song, traditionally, if I wrote something on the acoustic, I'd bring it in and we would supercharge it and speed it up and turn it into some kind of ripper. But I think just where the band was at that point, um, we were really hot from touring, just coming off another album cycle, and there was no kind of no energy in terms of trying to steer it and rearrange it into something that it wasn't. I
Yeah.
think I was pretty stoked on the song already, so I basically played it for the band, and then everybody kind of came in, and it was kind of starting to speed up and get louder, and then we decided to all sit down when we played it, just like the Beatles do, and get back. And as soon as we sat down, the entire arrangement completely clicked into place, and we never changed it once. So, um, it's I think it's a reflection of our growing confidence as musicians, and that we can play a bit more delicate stuff. It's one of the more delicate songs on the record and one of the more delicate songs in our catalog at this point. But I would also add that this album has probably our loudest, gnarliest moments that we've also recorded as well. So
Yeah,
we're
it
very
does.
proud of the dynamic range of the record. It's definitely our most dynamic record that we've made.
Of what could have been and the things you should have said. Yeah, if I could trade with them, I might just would. No, things ain't going the way I thought they would. Last night
Yeah, I would completely agree with that, Luke. And I think there's a very distinct kind of contrast between, a track like Spider Dream and then some of the other like rippers on the record that, have full, guitars blazing, solos, like crazy sort of stuff. So I mean, like if you're looking for the breadth of songwriting, it is all on the Lash. And to kind of talk about the thematic intent of the record, like the title is quite evocative, and I saw some quote saying that the record was inspired by a trip to the Vatican. I'm not sure if that's bullshit or not, but could you expand on that for me? Like, what's the kind
It's
of?
true.
Oh, okay,
Yeah.
so tell me
So
about it.
right before we went on tour for our last record, Free Reign to Passions, I went to Italy with my partner, and um, I'd never been before, but we both really wanted to go to the Vatican. I'm a very secular person, to put it mildly, but I
Okay,
still wanted to see what they had in the Vatican. And everybody's lined up to see the Sistine Chapel, and all the other kind of shall we say, marquee pieces of art that they
yeah,
have in there. But I kind of went down to the basement, and there was a dusty little exhibition corner that nobody else was in. And there was a series of bronze bas reliefs by an Italian sculptor named Francisco Messina. And they were the most brutal images I'd ever seen carved into bronze. And it was a series on the Second World War from the Italian perspective,
wow,
and there was one of two guys fighting over a knife, and they looked completely miserable and dejected, and basically at the point of tears, but they were in a mortal combat struggle over this knife, but they didn't want to be there. And I just stood there and looked at it until we had to leave. I couldn't stop staring at it, and I took a picture of it. We tried to get permission to use it, but the Vatican's got some serious lawyers, and we got to cease and desist. And I don't know if you know about their legal team, but it's pretty formidable. So
I can imagine.
yes, but we kind of use that as the only image on the mood board when making this record, and when kind of and choosing the artwork and naming the album. I just thought that the Lash really encapsulated the intent of this record.
No, I think it's a great title, and like I said, very evocative. And once I kind of read that story, it kind of it deepened the mystery for me a bit because I wanted to kind of know the reasoning behind it. But that's a fascinating story, and I think the idea of taking a moment of mortal combat and turning that into a really loud rock record is like kind of inspired, I think. So
Well, thank you. I mean, I think that the biggest thing about it for me was seeing that, at least my interpretation of it, was that neither of these guys wanted to be doing what they were doing, but forces had kind of uh, uh, pushed them into this situation that was absolutely terrible. And there was something just about, interpersonal conflict, uh, uh, on a less, even just on an emotional scale, that I think is analogous to that, that I think is represented in some of the lyrics of this record.
yeah, I agree. I mean, other tracks that I have here to kind of talk about, there's "They Won't Beat Us," which is I think maybe one of the most triumphant kind of tracks on the record. It definitely has a kind of tongue in cheek, optimistic tone that you guys are kind of known for. But then I would contrast that with something like "Hero Narrative," which is maybe like taking that expectation and then like putting in some realism into it and kind of like tempering that kind of, I guess, blissful kind of optimism. So I think there's a deep kind of lyrical thread running through all of these tracks.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I never really analyze my own lyrics very much. I just kind of, sometimes I'll get a line down that'll make me chuckle and I'll move on. But yeah, I mean, I was not, when I started writing the songs for this record, I was not in a very great place, and I had tried going to some therapy, and it wasn't really ticking a box for me. It wasn't really working. But I just found that if I would pick up my guitar and blast out one of these songs, I'd instantly feel better without any kind of thought about what I was actually writing. I just knew I felt better after I got each one down.
Got a feeling in my spine. This will fail in time. I got a feeling in my spine. This will fail in time. Now everything's wonderful. Got a fail.
So final question. Do you have any plans to return down under? I know you were here pre-COVID with Alexis on Fire. You did some festival stuff here, but do you have any plans in the works? Anything you can hint at?
I wish. I mean, listen, we're always trying to get back down there, and it is one of our top priorities. We are going to make it back there when we can. We have nothing in the works currently, but that could change quickly. We've got a pretty wide open 2026 right now. We're hoping that we can get something together for there. We're out right now with Dear Seattle, who's from
incredible band, friends of the show.
Yes, so we're out with them, and I'm trying to convince them to bring us there.
I mean, that would be a great package.
Yes, so we are working multiple angles to get back down there. We had an absolute blast in Australia, and we really want to make it back, and we will make it back.
All right. Well, Luke, thank you very much for taking time with me today. This has been sick. I'm glad we finally got to have the chat.
Me too, Owen.
I'll have links in the description for people to pre-order the new record. It rips. And yeah, thank you so much for coming on the show.
Well, thank you so much for having me, and hail, hail, rock and roll.
Thanks, dude. Hello, Owen popping in to say, please sign up for the TPD Patreon. This is what helps us keep the lights on and keep the show going. The link is at the bottom of your screen right now, patreon.com/tpdpod. All of our patrons get exclusive access to Side B of our roundup episodes, so you get a few extra tracks, as well as our feature album discussion and the full show experience. Patrons also get exclusive access to behind-the-scenes, off-the-cuff chit-chat from all of our guest episodes. But the patrons are the ones who make all of this happen. For as little as $5 a month, you can sign up to the TPD Patreon, and it really helps us out, really helps us keep the show going. So shout out to all of our patrons, shout out to our executive producer patrons. You're the real ones. And yeah, thank you so much for watching the show.